I'm freaking out.
I know, she has that effect on her.
Oh. Is it?
Okay, let me ask. When was the accident? When did you have an accident?
2009.
How old were you?
15.
Tell me about,
Going on 16.
tell me about 14-year-old going on 15 now.
14-year-old Naomi. Easily excited. Not very sure what she was doing. Just wide-eyed. What was I doing? I was in my 9th grade. What happened? I can't think.
Well, did you like any boys? Did you think you were the prettiest girl in the school? Did
No.
you have any? Were you part of a clique?
I wouldn't say I was part of a clique. I had 2 very close friends and we were always together everywhere at school. But I wouldn't really say we were a clique. They were just the 2 people that understood me the most at that time. Yeah. Did I have a crush on a boy? Of course I did. I was a girl, teenage girl. What do you mean, how many boys? I can't remember.
That's the worst.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, the accident, when did it happen? How did it happen? When did it happen?
Accident happened. So when I was,
An accident.
it was an accident. So when I was in 9th grade, I was at a day school. And then when I got to 10th grade, the last third of it, I was moved to a boarding school. And then when I got to 11th grade, I kind of became a nerd and I joined the science group. So we're supposed to have the science fair and the stuff that I needed for my project wasn't available. So I just had to help out all my friends who had their stuff there with them. And yeah, so something went wrong with one of my friend's projects. And because I was standing directly opposite her at that time, yeah, the thing exploded, kinda exploded. And my clothes caught fire and her clothes caught fire. It was purely an accident. And yeah, I ran around the lab like a chicken on fire. It was just horrible. Have you ever seen like a chicken, like when you chop off the neck, like not completely and it's still running? Yeah, that's how I ran around the lab. It was ridiculous. So yeah, at the end of it all, I was taken, like they managed to extinguish the fire. I was taken to hospital. My parents were in another town. And if my memory serves me right, the accident happened at like 3 p.m. They only informed my parents at like 7, so they only managed, the town that my parents lived in was like 4 hours away, so I kind of just had to quickly pack their things, and then they came at like 10. Yeah, and I was already lying in hospital by then, and you couldn't recognize my face and everything. It was just horrible. I remember I was asleep when they came, so they woke me up, and I woke up and I looked at them, and my mom, I was trying to smile, but I think my face was just really just looking horrible. My mom was just like looking at me, and my dad had this expression of pain on his face, and he had to leave because he couldn't just stand there. It was just a really awkward moment, kind of painful moment, because I was happy to see them, but it was like they were not happy to see me. Well, obviously, because I wasn't in a good state. So yeah, it was kind of a weird moment. Yeah, so I was in hospital for close to 6 weeks, and then after that I had to take some time to fully recover. I had to do some physiotherapy because I had not really lost movement, but then because of the way that my wounds healed, the movement in my neck and my hands was restricted, so I kind of had to, actually had to learn to use my right hand again. So yeah, I spent like 2 months in physiotherapy. Then I went back to school. It was very difficult, very I don't know what word to use to describe it, but just generally was not an easy time.
Alright, so the first time you looked in the mirror after getting out of the hospital,
Actually, the first time that they let me look in the mirror, I was still in hospital. And I remember very well, I rarely used to get up because it was painful and I was weak. So this one time, they encouraged me to get up because I'd been lying in bed for too long and they didn't want me to develop the bed sore thingies. So I got up and I looked in the mirror and I screamed and I started panicking. And I was crying and screaming and panicking. And in that moment, everyone in the room was panicking. And after that, they had to cover the mirror and I wasn't allowed to look into a mirror for I think about 3 or 4 weeks. The next time that they allowed me to look into a mirror again was like 3 weeks later. And by then I was already looking a lot better than I was the first time I looked in, so I didn't freak out as much. And yeah, I was scared of myself when I looked into the mirror the first time. It was kind of like, okay, what have I become? But later on it was easier, and as my wounds healed, it was easier and it was a little more, I guess it was a little less depressing, but it was still depressing. So yeah, I was depressed for a while, I should say.
what was the most, the scariest thought or feeling you had after the accident, after you healed?
After? I guess being considered kind of a social freak. Does that make sense? But like you know, there's that freak of nature thing, like where like everywhere you go, you draw people's attention, but not in a positive way. Like everyone looks at you and what? Yes, exactly. That was. I know. I know Shrek is green, but yeah, like. You know, sometimes we don't do these things on purpose. It's just you see something that's different from what you're used to seeing on a daily basis and you stare and you don't realize it, but your eyes and the expression on your face can convey very negative thoughts to that person. And it did happen the first couple of times that I went out after I was discharged from hospital. And for a while, I didn't want to go anywhere. I was just always home. And it was because of that. And I was afraid that that would never go away. That everywhere I went, people would look at me in that way, and it was just not pleasant.
Okay, so let's fast forward. How is your life now?
My life is good. Studying what I did want to study, even though that is not always great. Studying out of Zambia, which is what I always did want. I'm happy. I've come to accept that this is, you know, it doesn't, how can I put this? It doesn't affect my daily life. I mean, it's kind of just a reminder of something that happened, but it doesn't come with the negative emotions that it did before. I could say that I'm living a very normal life. I don't know. It did take a while. It did take a while. Years, probably. I can't pinpoint the exact time and say this is when it happened. Like this was the eureka moment. I can't point an exact time, but.
Well, did you have a process or the support system?
I think I did. I did have a support system. I did have very good friends around me that were just always there for me, always supporting me, always encouraging me. My parents were also very supportive, and I did like what was always uplifting for me was when I'd meet someone for the first time and they wouldn't look at me and like feel sorry for me, but you know, they'll just treat me like a normal person and maybe even, tell me that they're, like my scars kind of don't look like a flaw, but more like an enhancement. I don't know if that makes sense. But whenever somebody spoke to me along those lines, it always did encourage me to go on and just think that, hey, this isn't the end of the world. People have lived through worse. So, yeah. I don't really know if that answers your question.
Do you think your life now been in different hands?
I probably would have been very stuck up if I didn't have. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of stupid, but I probably would have been more. I probably would not have looked at life the way that I do now. I probably would have still been living kind of in a bubble and thinking the world revolves around me and everything's good and all that. But I think this kind of did help me grow and see life in a different way.
So you know how every time somebody goes through something, the people who have never gone through it are the ones who have like the best advice of everything will be fine when they know nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to say something to somebody who has gone through something similar, you having gone through it and reached the other side, what would you tell them? Does everything become okay? Or is that all some lies they tell you?
Everything does become okay, but it is a decision that you have to make yourself. You have to decide that everything has to be okay, because you could stay and wallow in your sadness forever, and at some point people are going to be tired of encouraging you. You have to just decide to do it yourself. You have to decide to encourage yourself. You have to decide to move on in a normal way and do things the way you would even if you had not been through that. It's all up to you, really. You just have to get to a point where you're comfortable in your own skin, and that's when it begins, really. That's what I think. It's already in you. You kind of, I know it doesn't make, yeah, that's the word. That strength, it's in you. You just have to find a way to tap into it. Just dig deep. You have to be tired of being miserable, kind of, and just find a way to fight it. I don't know how I can put it, but that is the only way. Because you can listen to all the motivational speakers you know. You can read 10,000 books, but if you do not make the decision to do it yourself, you still be at the same place that you were before you read and listened to all these people. So it really just has to come from you.
How about the singing? You sing and you actually have to stand in front of people and sing.
That is a completely different thing. It's kind of like when I sing, I kind of go to a whole different place. I do get nervous, but not because of how I look, but probably because I'm scared of missing a note. Music is something that's just really different. I think that's another thing that could help. Find a passion. Find something that inspires you or makes you feel at peace or takes you to another place, and just immerse yourself in that. Not drugs, something positive, and just immerse yourself in that and grow in that. And before you know it, it will affect other aspects of your life. I think part of my confidence actually does come from singing, because when I sing, I'm in a different place. I'm just, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of feel invincible, especially when I hit a note that I thought I couldn't, and then all of a sudden I hit it and I'm like, yes, I'm unstoppable. But, and then sometimes that confidence, you kind of carry it with you, and it helps build you. So I'd say find a passion. It'll help you. I am not making sense right now. Yeah.
If you were given a chance to do some kind of medical stuff to take away all your scars, would you take it?
If you asked me this question like 3 years ago or 2, I would have, in a blink of an eye, said yes. Now I'm not so sure. Sometimes I think, yeah, I will. Sometimes I think no. This is kind of a good reminder of where I've been, what I've been through, and what I can survive. And if I can survive this, I can survive more. But sometimes there are days when I'm like, oh, I'm tired of looking at them, I'm gonna take them out. But then, you know, I'm not so certain, actually. I don't know. Sometimes it's a big yes, sometimes it's a big no. Sometimes I'm just in between.
What's his name?
What's whose name?
The one who's confusing you. Only the
Actually, there are a lot more things that can confuse a girl than a guy, like which pair of shoes to buy, what color of skirt to wear. There are a lot more things that can confuse a girl.